Tonight, I have the honor to introduce our keynote speaker. He is likely best known to you as the host of the Matt Walsh Show at the Daily Wire, or through his documentary, What is a Woman? I have a lot of answers to share of what is a woman. To me, though, Matt is an encouragement to never mince words or apologize for defending life in the public square. Ephesians 5:13 says, "But when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible." Matt has worked hard to expose the darkest corners of our culture, including the predatory abortion industry. And I hope tonight you leave encouraged by him to also join us in shining your light to help us abolish abortion. Please welcome Matt Walsh.
Thank you. Thank you. Please don't stand before I even speak. Sets the bar way too high. And then if you don't stand after I speak, then I think I'll let you down. So that's the problem. You know, I appreciate that introduction. She told me when we're sitting at the table that it was a decision between the snarky intro or the sincere intro. And I said, do the snarky one, but I got the sincere one, so I appreciate that. What's that? Okay. You want to share it right now? That's all right. I won't put you on the spot. Thank you all for being here. I'm very happy to be part of this wonderful event where we are rallying together for an important cause. It's the most important cause. It's the cause that lays the foundation for everything else. The thing that, if we don't preserve it, we lose everything. It's the most fundamental and basic and essential thing of all, which is life. And what is it that most undermines, destroys, and threatens life in this country? Well, all of us in this room know that it's abortion. Abortion is still, for my money, and I think for everybody in this room, the defining issue of our time. It is still the wall that separates one side of the political divide from the other. And it is a wall that is built with the bodies of 60 million dead babies. Over 60 million babies have been killed through abortion, well over 60 million at this point. And the death toll is staggering. It's greater than anything the world has ever seen by order of magnitude. These victims, these children, have been killed legally by human hands in a little building in your local shopping mall that you drive by on your way to work or to Applebee's or to run errands. They've been killed at the behest of their own parents with the help of so-called doctors, facilitated and funded by the government. And in response to the silent screams of these human sacrifices, all there has been from so many in our culture is a giant yawn, or even in some corners, applause. Now, so many people in our country go about their days stepping over the bodies like debris, our shoes soaked in the blood of our own children. Let's reflect on that for a moment. Children, the most innocent, the most pure, the most beautiful of all people, are the precise ones that we have targeted. They've harmed no one. They're filled with joy and potential and love. If we cannot see the value and worth of a child, then who can we see it in? I remain forever shocked and confounded by the sorts of people who could look at an unborn child and see only a clump of cells. Now, we're all clumps of cells, and if you go to Walmart sometime, you'll see many people who are far clumpier than your average infant. But I love Walmart, so I'm a Walmart shopper myself. I heard my wife, she said, those are his people. They are my people at Walmart. I'm there like 5 times a week. Anyway. But can you really not see the miracle in this life? Can you really not see the beauty? Can you really not see the tragedy in destroying it? And it's a tragedy compounded threefold, because with abortion, we not only reject our children, but we reject ourselves. We have to remember the miraculous thing about conception, the moment when a new life comes into being, what is so mystical and beautiful about it is that when you think about it, there isn't just one life being created, but three. There is the child, a precious, vulnerable life, plucked out of eternity and sent here by God. Then there's the woman who goes from being just a woman to being a mother. She herself is created in this moment. It is a moment of becoming. She becomes something. She is born alongside her child. The same is true for the man. He goes from being just a man to being a father. As a father of 6 myself, I can attest to the transformative nature of parenthood. I look back at myself before I had kids. I don't recognize that person. I also didn't have a beard back then, so I really don't recognize him. It was me, but it was me before I became what I was meant to be. It was me before I knew why I was here. But the reality is that while 3 lives are created at conception, only 1 is killed through abortion. The child is gone forever from this earth, never to be seen again in this life. The mother and father are still who they became. Despite the lie that they are sold by the abortion industry, they don't go back to being just a woman and a man. The clock cannot be reversed. They're told by the abortion industry, oh, it's not your time. You could do this later. Well, no, it is your time. It's already happened. Your time is now. Whether you feel ready for it or not, it is now. So you cannot go back to being just a woman and a man. You are still a mother, still a father, but now you are the parents of a dead child. The child's loss is their loss, whether they choose to confront it now or not. Eventually they will, and they will feel it, and they will mourn. There's no way to get around the fundamental fact that the pro-abortion movement wishes to deny that the humanity of the unborn, the personhood of the unborn, is just a fact. The pro-abortion advocate will try to say that the child's not a person because he's still developing, because he's dependent on his mother for survival. This, he will say, means that the baby lacks moral standing. But this view that personhood is acquired by degree and that it is forfeit if you are entirely dependent on someone else for survival clearly implicates more than just the unborn. It seems that the sick, the infirm, the disabled, the elderly all get caught up in this net. By this line of reasoning, all of these people have, at a minimum, less claim to personhood than I do. If personhood is on a spectrum, if it is contingent, then by this logic we have depersoned many categories of people, which is a feature, not a bug, of the pro-abortion movement. They intend to whittle away at both ends of life, the young and the old, unpersoning one subset after another, until the right to life has been extinguished for all but the privileged few. The only other option, aside from personhood being attained by degree, is that personhood and its attending moral rights and dignities is inherent to all living human beings. If something is inherent, that means that it belongs to the essential nature of that thing. The idea that our human dignity, our personhood, is inherent, that it belongs to our essential nature, cannot be lost or diminished under any circumstances. That's an idea that lies at the foundation of our country, at the foundation of any notion of human rights. It's an idea that everyone in this country pretends to believe under most circumstances. If an unborn baby does not have inherent value, then human value itself is not permanent or essential, and thus, if it does not have inherent value, then neither do you. You cannot gain inherent value. You either have it from the first moment of your existence, or you do not have it at all. Which is why sometimes I think that we get lost in the weeds with this argument about, well, does life begin at conception? The answer is yes, it does. But also, existence begins at conception. There's no question about that, is there? Whatever you want to call the child at the moment of conception, it at least exists, doesn't it? And if you say that life does not begin at conception, then what you are saying is that there was a moment of your own existence when you were not a person, and that doesn't make any sense. How could there be a moment of your own existence when you were not you? And the personhood argument for abortion is actually even worse than it sounds at first. It's so bad that even if it were true, it would do almost nothing to prove the pro-abortion case. This is how wrong these people are, that even if they were right, they would still be wrong. Because the personhood argument for abortion is a syllogism with a missing premise. It seems to go like this. Premise one, an unborn baby is not a person. He is merely a potential person. Conclusion, therefore we can kill him. Now wait a second. Two does not flow logically from one. You're missing something here. You skipped over a step. Just because someone isn't a person doesn't necessarily mean that you can kill them. That's a whole separate case you need to make that you haven't made. There's a whole other premise you have to establish. You haven't even tried to do it. So even if I conceded this point, even if I let you make the first massive logical leap and I said, okay, it's not a person, it's a potential person, you still have another even bigger leap to make. Because now you need to prove that it is okay to destroy this potential person. I don't see how you make that case, because if I agree it's a potential person, for the sake of argument, it would seem to me that this potential human ought to be treated like the most valuable non-person thing on the planet. It would seem to be the second best thing next to being a person. And I don't think it is necessarily okay to kill the second best thing. I mean, wouldn't the potential person still be more valuable than, say, a sea turtle egg? Sea turtle eggs are protected by the federal law. There's no question that sea turtles aren't people. Now, to be clear again, I don't even for a moment buy the idea that an unborn person is just a potential person. I reject it outright on scientific, logical, and moral grounds. I'm just trying to establish that the argument doesn't work even on its own premise. Consider it this way, and I've used this analogy before, and it's a little bit of a crude analogy. It doesn't work entirely, but I think it illustrates the point a little bit. What if you had a winning lottery ticket? What if you won $50 million in the lottery, and you had your lottery ticket, and you were skipping down to the lottery office, waving it in the air? Not a good idea. You're saying, look, everyone, I just won $50 million, check it out. Now, imagine that I run up, and I snatch that ticket from you, and I burn it right in front of you. Now, that ticket was not $50 million. It's just a ticket. It was just a receipt. That's all it was. It was just the potential of $50 million. It was moments away from being converted into $50 million, but at the moment that I destroyed it, it was just a piece of paper. But would you react as though you just lost a piece of paper? Or would you react as though you just lost $50 million? Would you accept my argument if I said, hey man, calm down? It was just potentially $50 million. Of course you wouldn't. See, whether the ticket is $50 million or merely the potentiality of $50 million is basically irrelevant. It is semantics. And certainly you would say that the potentiality of $50 million has a worth greater than zero. In fact, it probably has a worth of $50 million. As it happens, the child in this analogy is already, from the moment of conception, $50 million. More, he is a thing of infinite value, not just infinite potential value. But what I'm trying to say is I don't see the difference, really, between infinite potential value and infinite value. So if I agree with how they frame the argument that this child is just a potential child, I would still see it as an act of unspeakable wickedness to murder the potential child. And that's what abortion is in the end. This is the truth that cannot be escaped. It is the intentional destruction of innocent human life. And intentionally destroying innocent human life is always wrong, period, in every case, no matter what. If it is not always wrong to intentionally destroy innocent human life, then nothing is wrong. Then the very word wrong has no meaning. That's our case as pro-lifers. It is always wrong to intentionally kill innocent human life. That's our case. That's the whole argument. That's it. It's very simple. But there's a lot of power in its simplicity. You know, it's the other side that has to get very complicated, has to get into the weeds, the semantics, has to bring up the hard cases, has to bring up this and that and obfuscate. That's all they ever do. Because they cannot take this issue head on. They can't just talk about what this thing is. That's why it's such a tragedy that in recent months, a large contingent of people who are supposed to be on our side have abandoned this simple truth. Indeed, it's one of the most shameful and twisted ironies that I've ever seen that pro-lifers won the greatest human rights victory of all time with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But rather than our side being emboldened by our historic achievement, rather than celebrating, rather than acting confident and triumphant, rather than throwing parades to celebrate this amazing thing that has happened, instead, many conservatives, quote unquote, have over the past many months and last couple of years become very shy about this issue. They've even blamed us, pro-lifers, for some of the electoral defeats in recent elections. They claim there will be more defeats in the future, and when they happen, it'll be our fault. Now, the first question I have for any conservative who claims that we can only win by being moderate on abortion, the first question I have is this: what the hell do you know about winning? What wins do you have under your belt? What battles have you fought and won? What battles have you fought at all? Because as long as I've been alive and involved in any of these issues, there's always been that voice, that very loud voice among people that pretend to be allies of ours. All they ever do is say, well, that's a little too far. Don't say that. No, let's not fight over that. Let's not die on this hill. They never find a hill worth dying on. And one day you look around and you look, well, there's no hills left. So I go back to this question: why the hell would anyone come to you for insight on this issue or any other if you're in this camp? You want to talk to me about winning? Then show me your wins, or shut up. Now, I can show you our wins. We have them as pro-lifers. What about you? And these are all very good questions, but we never get an answer. Instead, we're assured that conservatives are losing because of the abortion issue. The issue is unwinnable. Pro-lifers will screw everything up. We have to come out and endorse legalized abortion in order to win. I've even heard, as I think many people in this room have, alleged conservatives recently declare that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. I've heard this from conservatives. Literally repeating pro-abortion talking points from the 1990s. Now, just to be clear, if you are a supposed conservative now saying that we should embrace legalized abortion in any form, then you are, make no mistake, advocating for a full-scale surrender. You're free to take that position if you want, but please, for the love of God, don't pretend that you're a fighter if you do. You're waving the white flag. You're doing the thing that the other side never does, and ours too often does. You are snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. You are apologizing for winning. But before you hoist that flag, let me offer a few thoughts. First of all, you can blame pro-lifers for the recent string of electoral defeats, or, especially given that this string began before Dobbs, you could consider the possibility that the right, by and large, has been running bad candidates and bad campaigns. It's amazing when I see this clown car parade that they trot out around election time, and these clowns lose, and then they turn to us and say, why'd you do that to us? This is especially worth considering given that many of the losers over the past few years have not even been pro-life hardliners or pro-life at all. Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, for one example. Liberal on the issue. Second, the claim that conservatives should moderate on abortion is not some brilliant new insight, okay? It's not any kind of bold political innovation. All these people that say this now, acting like, you know what, I just thought of something. I think we should be more moderate. Oh, wow. How did you come out? That was a real light bulb moment. This is what the establishment has been saying for my entire life. Since I was born and before, the establishment has insisted that the only way to win is to go soft on abortion, compromise, hide from the issue, undersell it. This has been conventional milquetoast Republican thinking forever. Does it appear to have been effective? Does it have a track record of success? Ask yourself that. These people have been losing and scapegoating social conservatives forever. They've been blaming us for their failures since always. This is nothing new. Why would we buy into it now? The truth is that so-called social conservatives are the only ones on the right side of the political spectrum who've been doing any winning of any kind. Not only are we not to blame for Republican losses, but we are the only ones who can claim any wins at all. See, social conservatives know how to fight the culture war. In fact, we are the only ones who do. We're the reason Roe was overturned. We're the reason that bills protecting the unborn have been passed in many states. It's not just abortion. We're the reason that it's now illegal to castrate and mutilate children in the name of gender transitions in many states. We are the reason why trans activists are losing ground by the day. We're the reason why many major corporations have been suspiciously a little shy about Pride Month this year. And a big reason for that is that we're the ones who took Bud Light's scalp and nailed it to the wall and said, this is what happens. And so we are the ones who are telling you, don't compromise. And we're not just saying it because we think it's the best way to win, we're saying it because we know it is. Third, this is most important. Before you tell me that the pro-life message is a political loser, answer me this. How many candidates, and I'm not saying that none did, how many candidates on a national level fought back hard and effectively on this issue? Actively went after the pro-aborts, ran ads attacking their opponents for supporting the dismemberment of infants, which every Democrat does, by the way. Actually countered the left's pro-abortion narrative with a strong affirmative pro-life narrative. This is the problem. The pro-life message is being blamed in races where the pro-life message was never even articulated. You cannot blame pro-lifers for losing when you never even put up a fight. So it doesn't mean we can't win, but it does mean you won't win if you don't try. If I can be forgiven for borrowing from G.K. Chesterton and paraphrasing, the pro-life position has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. So we go on offense, we flip the script, we flip the conversation, we focus it on the horrors and barbarity of abortion and the abortion industry. This has not been done on the political level that much. It has not really been attempted. Most of the losing candidates have not done this. They've hidden from the issue instead of going on the offense. Instead of being, they're embarrassed. How can you be embarrassed when you are the one saying, don't kill babies? Are you embarrassed that you don't want to kill babies? Democrats want to spend the entire time talking about the hard cases, rape, incest, life of the mother, cases that account for fewer than 1% of all abortions. Republicans allow themselves to get baited into focusing the conversation there, where Democrats want to focus it. Basic note of strategy. If you have an enemy, you figure out the ground where they want to fight you, and you do not fight them there. If they are inviting you to the battlefield and saying, hey, come over here, it's nice, look, it's nice, come over this way. Obviously, you fight them anywhere except that exact spot where they're asking you to. And so rarely has the other side responded, rarely have the Republicans responded and said, look, we're not going to talk about the 1% of cases until you answer some questions about the 99% of cases. You say, here's what abortion is. Here's why 99% of abortions are performed. Here's what happens in a third trimester abortion, which happens thousands of times a year, by the way. You need to answer for this before we talk about anything else. Very few Republicans have had the guts or wherewithal to respond that way, and so they lose. Here's where I stand, and I believe that everybody in this room stands with me on this. I would not compromise on abortion, even if it really did mean losing every election from now until kingdom come. And that's because to accept child murder is to forfeit your soul. And if we are really a country where child murder is so popular, where acceptance of child murder is so fundamental to our way of life, that it's impossible to win if you oppose it, then we are not a country worth saving. If that were the case, then we deserve whatever destruction is coming our way. God will strike us down for our sins. And I couldn't stand in the way of that if I wanted to, and I don't want to. I will never accept abortion. I will never compromise on it. I will never give up any ground. I will not give an inch, not an inch. All abortion is wrong, always. It is never okay to kill an innocent and defenseless human being. It is always our obligation as human beings, as parents, as Americans, to protect the innocent, especially our children. And if we cannot do that, if we won't do that, then we are worthless. There are no exceptions to this. None, period. I would rather die than compromise on this issue. But the good news is that the whole premise is flawed. The pro-life message can win in this country, but only if we have the courage to fight for it and the intelligence to fight well. The pro-life message has already won in so many ways on so many battlefields. Everybody in this room can attest to that. Winning is our destiny because truth always prevails in the end. You just have to stand there with it and not leave. We stand in the truth when no one else will. We speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. We say what must be said, and we do what must be done. And if we continue to do that without fear or compromise, eventually the day will come when every child is free to be born and to live. I see that day in the future, but we're not there yet. And so for now, we fight. Thank you.